Intelligence isn't a gift from the gods. It's not some mystical trait you're either born with or not. Intelligence is a discipline, a way of life. It's forged in the fires of discomfort, shaped by deliberate thought, and hardened through ruthless self-awareness. It doesn't care how charismatic you are. It doesn't care how confident you act. It cares whether or not you can think deeply, plan sharply, and act decisively. Most men are stuck on the surface, chasing appearances while neglecting substance. They're parroting what they hear, mimicking what they see, and calling that knowledge. But true intelligence? It starts when you stop consuming and start questioning. It starts when you stop talking and start listening, not just to others, but to yourself, your thoughts, your patterns, your BS excuses. That's when the game changes. That's when you stop living like a pawn and start playing like a king. The 7 traits we're about to dive into aren't just habits. They're filters for every decision, every relationship, every move you make. Because intelligent men don't play checkers, they play chess. And every trait I break down in this video will give you another piece on the board. Each trait will challenge you, some will piss you off. That's good. That means they're exposing weakness, and weakness is the enemy of intelligence. So, here's the challenge. Don't just hear these traits, audit yourself against them. No ego, no filters, just raw honesty. Because if you lie to yourself here, the world will expose you later. We're going to cover the inner mechanics of how intelligent people move, how they process information, how they respond to chaos, how they decide with clarity, and how they win without wasting time on nonsense. Each trait will stack on the last. And by the end of this breakdown, you'll either walk away smarter or more aware of how far behind you really are. You ready? Good, because now we dive into the first trait. Trait 1. Ruthless self-awareness. Here's the first trait that separates the intelligent from the imitators. Ruthless self-awareness. I'm not talking about some soft Instagram-worthy "I'm just working on myself" garbage. I mean the kind of self-awareness that cuts deep, the kind that exposes your flaws without mercy, the kind that makes you look in the mirror and not look away. Most people operate on autopilot. They lie to themselves constantly. They say things like, "I'm trying," when they're really making excuses. They say, "I didn't have time," when they wasted 6 hours binge-watching trash. They say, "I'm doing my best," when they haven't even scratched the surface of what their best looks like. Intelligent people don't tolerate that level of self-delusion. They track their patterns like a sniper. They know when they're slipping. They know when they're bullshitting themselves. They don't sugarcoat their weaknesses, they dissect them. Because you can't fix what you won't face. Think about it. If you were a company, would you invest in you? Would you trust yourself with capital, with pressure, with risk? Most men wouldn't even hire themselves if they were brutally honest. That's a problem. Intelligent people know their own worth and their own liabilities. This kind of self-awareness isn't easy. It requires brutal honesty. And most people can't handle that. They want comfort over clarity. But here's the deal. You can't grow what you won't admit is broken. Ruthless self-awareness means you ask the hard questions daily. Where am I wasting time? What excuses am I repeating? Who am I pretending to be for approval? What version of myself am I avoiding because it makes other people uncomfortable? You don't rise by ignoring these questions. You rise by attacking them head-on. And when you operate from this level of internal clarity, no one can gaslight you. No one can manipulate you. No one can tell you who you are because you already know. That's power. And power is intelligence in action. Now let's move to the second trait. If you're not applying this next one, you're not thinking, you're reacting. Trait 2. Strategic thinking over emotional reactivity. Most people are emotional wrecks pretending to be logical. They react to everything. Someone disrespects them, they lash out. A problem hits, they panic. They confuse activity for strategy and emotions for decisions. That's why they keep running in circles, high energy, zero results. Intelligent people don't operate like that. They play the long game. They think in moves, not moments. When something goes wrong, they don't flinch. They zoom out. They assess the battlefield. They find leverage points. They don't cry about the storm. They study the wind and build sails. This is the difference between someone who's led by life and someone who leads it. Let me put it like this. Emotion is a passenger. Strategy is the driver. If you let emotion take the wheel, you crash every time. Emotions are information, not instructions. They tell you what's happening inside, not what you should do next. Intelligent people feel everything but act on what makes sense. That's what makes them dangerous. Because while everyone else is flailing, they're calculating. Imagine walking into a negotiation. One guy is emotionally charged, taking things personally, trying to dominate with ego. The other guy is calm, clear, and 10 steps ahead. Who wins? Every time it's the one with strategy. This applies to everything. Arguments, business, relationships, fitness, you name it. You have to become the kind of man who delays gratification in favor of precision. You don't just react because you feel something, you process that emotion, then decide the most effective response. This is why intelligent men are often quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're running the numbers in their head before they open their mouth. They're not trying to be liked, they're trying to win. And to win, you have to master timing, tone, and tactics. If you're the kind of guy who lets his emotions dictate his actions, congratulations, you're predictable, and predictability gets you played. But if you develop the discipline to pause, think, and choose the right move instead of the obvious one, now you're a threat. Now you're a strategist, not a pawn. And let me tell you, the world bends for strategists. So, here's your audit for this trait. Do you take things personally that aren't personal? Do you react before thinking? Do you make decisions based on how you feel or what makes sense? Do you know when to shut up and when to strike? If you fail that audit, fix it. Because every day you let your emotions drive, you're gambling with your future. And intelligent men don't gamble. They play to win. Trait 3. Relentless curiosity. Intelligent people are not know-it-alls, they're learn-it-alls. There's this twisted idea that smart people have all the answers. That's a lie. Truly, intelligent people are addicted to asking better questions. They're obsessed with understanding how things work, why things fail, and what's hiding beneath the surface. They live in a state of constant exploration, and that makes them unstoppable. Most people stop learning after school. They get a diploma and think that's it. They let their curiosity rot in the graveyard of routine. They scroll garbage online instead of devouring knowledge. They let their mind get soft, and then they wonder why their life feels stagnant and boring. You want to know the truth? Stupidity isn't just ignorance, it's choosing to stay ignorant. It's walking past opportunities to learn because you'd rather be entertained than educated. Relentless curiosity kills stagnation. It refuses to coast. It asks why, how, and what's next. It digs. It questions norms. It destroys assumptions. And it never stops. Smart people read obsessively. They seek out mentors. They challenge their beliefs. They want to know what the smartest people in the room are thinking, not so they can copy them, but so they can understand the frameworks behind their success. This kind of curiosity turns average men into world changers. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about shallow curiosity, that fake interest people show just to look smart. I'm talking about a hunger for understanding that keeps you up at night. That kind of curiosity rewires your brain. It makes you dangerous. Because once you start connecting dots that other people don't even see, you're no longer competing. You're creating. Think of curiosity as a furnace. If it burns hot enough, it'll melt your limitations. If you're not constantly learning, adapting, evolving, you're dying intellectually. There is no neutral. You're either expanding or shrinking. Here's your audit. When was the last time you learned something that made you uncomfortable? When was the last time you read a book that challenged your worldview? Are you more interested in becoming right or becoming better? Relentless curiosity separates thinkers from repeaters. If you're not constantly questioning, digging, and upgrading, you're already behind. Now let's stack the next trait. Because curiosity without clarity leads to chaos. Trait 4. Mental clarity in a noisy world. The average man's mind is a disaster. Cluttered, distracted, addicted to noise. They can't sit still for 5 minutes without checking their phone. Their brain is a circus of useless information, half-finished thoughts, and emotional debris. And they wonder why they can't focus, why they can't decide, why they can't win. Let me tell you something simple but brutal. A scattered mind is a weak mind, and a weak mind gets dominated. Intelligent people protect their clarity like it's oxygen. Because it is. Mental clarity is what allows you to see what others miss, to move when others freeze, to cut through chaos while everyone else chokes on it. You want to know why smart people look calm under pressure? It's not because they feel nothing. It's because their mind isn't clogged. It's sharp, clean, prioritized, focused. They've eliminated junk inputs. They've trained their brain to think on purpose. They don't let dopamine addiction control their focus. They've built habits that protect their mental bandwidth. You can't think clearly if you're constantly drowning in distraction. You can't make high-level decisions if your brain is stuffed with low-level noise. Every notification, every meaningless scroll, every pointless argument, it's a tax on your clarity. And most men are mentally broke because of it. You want to operate like a weapon? You need a clear mind. That means mastering solitude. That means eliminating distractions. That means building mental discipline. You should be able to sit in a room with zero entertainment and think. That's when ideas come. That's when insight shows up. That's when you realize what needs to be done. And here's the edge that clear-minded people have, while the rest of the world is confused, chasing trends, reacting emotionally. They're already 5 steps ahead, because clarity gives you speed. And in a world moving this fast, speed of thought is power. Here's your audit. How often do you intentionally disconnect and think? Is your environment helping or hurting your clarity? Are your habits built around focus or distraction? Can you go an hour without stimulation? Or do you reach for your phone like a drug? If you failed that, fix it. Because without mental clarity, all your intelligence gets stuck in traffic. Clarity turns information into insight. It turns motion into momentum. And it's a non-negotiable trait of high-level intelligence. Trait 5. Precision in communication. Smart people speak with precision. They don't ramble. They don't overshare. They don't throw out words like confetti just to sound intelligent. Every word they use has weight. Every sentence has purpose. Every conversation is a calculation. Now compare that to how the average person talks. Full of filler, nonsense, nervous laughs, passive language. They confuse being talkative with being intelligent. They think volume equals value. Wrong. Intelligent communication is sharp, it's deliberate, it's clean. It doesn't just sound good, it hits. Let me break it down for you. Words are tools. And just like any tool, if you use them without skill, you hurt yourself more than anyone else. But if you master them, you can influence, lead, inspire, and dominate without lifting a finger. That's power. You know who gets listened to? The man who speaks with certainty. Not arrogance, not noise, certainty. People lean in when intelligent men speak, not because of what they say, but because of how they say it. Calm, direct, efficient. Here's the secret most guys miss. Your ability to communicate reflects your ability to think. If your thoughts are jumbled, your words will be too. If your thinking is clear, your language becomes a weapon. Want to see someone's intelligence level? Don't look at their degree. Listen to how they explain a complex idea. Can they break it down simply? Can they communicate clearly under pressure? Can they command attention without shouting? That's what separates the thinkers from the noisemakers. And it's not just about speech, either. Intelligent people write with clarity. They message with intention. They don't send 5 paragraphs to say what could be said in 2 sentences. They understand that in a world full of noise, clarity is dominance. You're either precise or forgettable. Audit yourself right now. Do you over-explain out of insecurity? Do you use passive language instead of speaking with strength? Do you fill silence with noise just to feel important? Can you make your point without losing the listener? Fix it, because no matter how smart you are, if you can't communicate, the world will pass you by. Trait 6. Emotional resilience under pressure. Here's the trait that breaks most men. Emotional fragility. You want to be intelligent? Then you better learn how to keep your head while everything around you is falling apart. Because guess what? Life will test you. People will lie to you. Plans will fall through. Money will dry up. Your back will hit the wall. And when that happens, your reaction reveals your real intelligence. The weak collapse. The average panic. The emotional meltdown. But the intelligent? They hold the line. They don't pretend the pain isn't there. They acknowledge it. Then they ask one question. What's the move? They don't get stuck crying about what happened. They analyze. They adapt. They execute. Every time. Emotional resilience isn't about being numb. It's about being disciplined. It's about processing chaos without losing control. It's about using pressure to sharpen your mind instead of breaking it. You want to know why most men stay stuck? Because every time life throws a punch, they flinch, they spiral, they let emotion hijack their mind. And suddenly, all that potential gets flushed down the drain. Resilient men are different. They can feel the fear but still move forward. They can take hits and stay locked in. They don't rely on motivation. They operate off principle. This trait is developed, not gifted. You build emotional resilience by doing hard things, by embracing failure, by walking through the storm instead of hiding from it. Every time you push through pain, you build mental armor. Every time you stay calm under fire, you become more dangerous. And let's be honest, the reason most men avoid discomfort is because they've been coddled. They've never had to face themselves in silence. They've never had to operate without applause. They've never been forced to suffer on purpose. But suffering is the forge, and resilience is the blade. If you don't have emotional control, your intelligence doesn't matter. You'll fold the moment things get real. So here's your audit. When pressure hits, do you think clearly or panic? Do you blame the world, or do you take responsibility? Do you stay grounded in adversity, or do you let emotions steer the wheel? Can you stay composed when everything feels uncertain? If not, you've got work to do. Because life doesn't reward the smartest man. It rewards the one who stays calm when the fire starts. And that calm, that's not just mental toughness. That's real intelligence. Trait 7. Disciplined execution. Let's end with this. Intelligence that doesn't translate into action is useless. You can be the smartest man in the room, but if you don't do anything with it, you're just another walking encyclopedia. Insight without execution is just noise. Ideas without movement are just fantasies. No one cares how well you think if you never build anything with it. This is the 7th and most decisive trait of intelligent people: disciplined execution. Notice the word disciplined. Not frantic, not motivated, not occasional. Disciplined. Intelligent people don't just have thoughts. They turn thoughts into targets, then targets into systems, then systems into results. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't chase inspiration. They build momentum through consistent action, even when it's uncomfortable. They understand that intelligence is a multiplier, but only if it's attached to movement. The average person gets stuck in the loop of overthinking, analysis, paralysis, waiting for the perfect time, planning, researching, watching videos, talking about it, but never pulling the trigger. Intelligent people pull the trigger, then they adjust, then they refine, then they repeat. Because they know that learning is magnified in motion. The fastest way to learn is to do. The fastest way to grow is to build. The fastest way to get feedback is to move. Execution sharpens intelligence, and execution without discipline is just chaos. You can have all the potential in the world, but without structure, you're nothing but a lost weapon. Smart people aren't driven by hype. They're driven by systems. They know what needs to get done. They break it down. They put it on the calendar. They don't wait for motivation to show up. They train it to obey. And here's the part no one wants to hear. Discipline isn't about being in the mood. It's about doing it anyway. Whether it's 6 a.m. or 11 p.m., whether it feels good or not, whether anyone claps for you or not. Intelligent men don't need applause. They need results. Here's your audit. Do you finish what you start? Do you act with urgency? Or do you keep saying, someday? Do you create systems around your goals? Or do you rely on willpower and luck? Can you stay consistent even when no one's watching? If you can't answer yes, then your intelligence isn't doing anything for you. It's dormant. And dormant potential is one of the saddest things in the world. Don't let that be your legacy. Let's get something clear. Intelligence is not about sounding smart. It's not about how well you did in school. It's not about being praised for knowing things. It's about how you live. It's about how you operate under fire, how you move through chaos, how you build when others break, how you think, act, and execute in a world full of noise. These 7 traits are not optional. They are not suggestions. They are the requirements if you want to live with clarity, power, and purpose. Ruthless self-awareness, strategic thinking, relentless curiosity, mental clarity, precision in communication, emotional resilience, disciplined execution. Lock those in, drill them, live them. Because every man you respect, every man who moves with power, every man who leads, he has these traits baked into his bones. And most men, they'll never get there. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's easier to scroll than to think, easier to react than to plan. Easier to talk than to build. But that's not you. Not if you've made it this far. You're not here to stay average. You're not here to just exist. You're here to sharpen, to dominate, to rise. So here's the call to action. Audit yourself against every single one of these traits. Be honest. Be brutal. Identify where you're slipping and tighten the screws. Then execute. Every damn day. And if you want more hard truths and real tools to sharpen your mind and build your edge, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with which trait hit you hardest. No fluff, no games, just results. Level up or stay stuck. Choice is yours. I will be looking forward to seeing you in the next one.